Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So today's video is one of my favorite tropes. It's dark romance. We haven't done one of these in a while, like just straight up dark. So that's what we decided to do.
We have not.
Yeah, so these are just all straight up dark. Okay, so before we start with that,
okay, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification button. Like and comment. We love to hear from you guys. And we also like to give away free books on our channel. So always make sure you're checking back to hear how you can win some free books.
Yep. All right. Dark. You ready to dive into the dark? We will say there is varying levels of dark.
Yes.
Just because we think it's dark, it might not be, or we might say something's kind of on the lighter dark and it's like pitch black and scary for you. So just know your triggers going into these. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you ready for me to start?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first rec I have is a duet that I read not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago, and it is Mafia, because a lot of dark is Mafia anyway. And that is Malevolent King by Mila Kane. So this is about Sophia and Nikolai. And Nikolai is in the Bratva, and Nikolai is crazy. And like, that is not an understatement. He really, really is. He is a psychopath or sociopath. Oh, he's crazy. And then you have Sophia. She is a part of the Italian Mafia. And she and him had a meet cute a few years ago, and they don't really get along. And then she finds out, now it's been a few years, she finds out that her father has Nikolai in the basement. He's going to torture him. His dad is dead, and he and his brother are vying for the lead of the Bratva. Like they're trying to see who's going to be in charge. One's supposed to kill the other. It's like a thing. He may or may not break out, and he may or may not kidnap her, and it may or may not turn into a 2-book situation. There's a lot of torture. There's a lot of interesting situations, but she's been kind of kept in this little prison of her dad's making, where she is not allowed to even think for herself. So really, really loved it. I think I did a really crappy job of telling you guys about it, but I really loved this one. It is really good. It's dark. I love how crazy Nikolai is. I really liked him as a character. I don't know what that says about me, but I really liked him as a character. So,
all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to hit you right out the gate with dark, taboo, and forbidden.
Okay.
Right out the gate. So my first rec is Wicked Scandal by Rachel Lee. And we have Catherine, whose husband is the mayor of the town, and she is a high school English teacher. And her husband is one of those guys that everybody in town thinks is just the stand-up mayor. But behind closed doors, he is kind of a monster, and he is extremely abusive to her and just like a narcissist. He blames everything on her that doesn't go his way in his life. And it's hard to read at times because he's pretty abusive to her. And then we have Wilder. Wilder's dad is going to be running for mayor against her husband. And he is also a senior in high school, and he is in her class. And he recognizes that her husband does not treat her well. And he kind of has a thing for Catherine. And from there, Catherine has been kind of tutoring him and helping. And her husband shows up one day during their tutoring session, which at this point is strictly like just student teacher tutoring session. And he kind of freaks out on her, and Wilder is really taken aback by his behavior, and he wants to help Catherine. And so from there, the two of them kind of start a little bit of a relationship, but there's like the big problem of the fact that like her husband is very abusive and is not going to tolerate her stepping out of line during his campaign.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, speaking of husbands, that are interesting. My next book is a new release by Lilith Vincent. It is Brutal Husband, and it is a third book in the series, but you can read it as a standalone. So this is about Rita and Nero. So this is Mafia adjacent. We know their families are crime families, but it doesn't really go into specifics. So Rita and Nero get thrown into this arranged marriage. Nero really doesn't want to get married, but he kind of has to propel his career. And Rita has a very overbearing, or just a horribly cruel mother, and she's like, just go get married to this guy. On their first meeting, he's very cold and aloof. Everybody knows that he's he's a cold guy, especially in public. But they kind of have this thing where he kind of softens a little bit towards her. And every time they meet up, like when they have the engagement party and all these different things, she never knows, is he going to be cruel to her or is he going to be kind to her? They end up getting married, and he tends to be more cruel than kind. And then a year into their marriage, he disappears for 6 months. And you don't know where he goes. She doesn't know. She thinks he's dead. She has no clue. And then he comes back, and he is crazy. Like, he is obsessive, possessive. He is completely a different guy, and he wants to kill her. So this is one of those books where you go, what the heck am I reading? Like, what is happening? But you're so sucked into the story and trying to figure it out in your head that it doesn't matter what's happening. You're going to love it in the end. But it is definitely dark. And I loved this. This out of the series is my favorite so far. Like, I loved this story. So next.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I have Ember Hughes, Where
Love
There's
this
a
book.
Will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's good.
Yep.
Dark, obviously.
Yes.
So this is Dark Cowboy. And we have Kinley and Colton. They have grown up next door to each other on their different ranches. And they have like a really cute little meet cute when they're little kids. And as they get older, their friendship turns into like they become boyfriend girlfriend in high school, and he thinks that Kenley's it for him, like this is how his life is going to go, and she abruptly breaks up with him, and Colton is brokenhearted, and he flees and doesn't come back to the town because he's like, I can't be anywhere near her, like she just destroyed me. So he flees and goes to a ranch in Texas where he works for, I think it's about 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Isn't it 10 years or
Yep.
is it less than 10 years?
Nope,
It's a
10
long
years.
time. And
10
he
years.
comes back because his sister calls and needs help because their father has passed away. And he has left behind a lot of debt and suspicion on what the heck was going on that nobody knew was happening. And so he goes back to try and help her figure everything out. And so he goes and confronts Kinley's dad to figure out like what was happening here. And the next thing we know, he wakes up chained in a basement, and Kenley gets peeks of him, but Kenley won't speak. And so we have no idea what's going on, what has happened, and he is being tortured there, but Kenley doesn't speak anymore, and he doesn't know why. But he still loves her. And oh my gosh, this is just brutal. It is dark, and oh, it is heartbreaking. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next book in that series.
Yeah. This one, there is another book coming, but this is like a complete standalone.
Yes.
You get everything.
It's a different
yes.
hero and heroine in the next one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the next one that I have is it's a retelling. It's more fantasy, but it is definitely dark. And that is A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. I know that this is one's a lot more popular. Anything by Karina Halley is popular, but it is definitely worth reading. So this is about Marin and Ramsey. So this is like a Little Mermaid reimagining, retelling. So Marin sees the prince, Prince Eric, who's supposed to be her everything when she's young. And I think she's 16 at the time, and she trades her voice to the Sea Witch to get the prince, like she does in the movie. But unlike the cartoon, things are not as they seem. She eventually gets her voice back, but she's lived for 10 years as a princess to Prince Eric. Prince Eric is a douche canoe. Prince Eric is a jerk. He's cruel. He's abusive to her. He is horrible. And so things just didn't pan out like she thought it was going to. And then that's where we meet Ramsey, who is the pirate of a ship. She and Prince Eric are kidnapped and taken on the ship. And this is kind of where the Pirates of the Caribbean come in, because you have some of those elements from the Pirates of the Caribbean as well. There's a curse. There's things that they have to break. Love this. It's very dark, but I loved it so much. It was so good, and I really want to read book 2, but I haven't yet because I haven't yet. So book 2 is a different set of characters as well, but oh, so good.
Okay.
Okay, what's next?
All right, my next one is a YA dark romance, but it does not have, it is definitely set for YA, but it does not read like YA. It reads
Okay.
like a fantastic Jennifer Hartman book. So this is Catch the Sun. And we have Ella, whose brother is a notorious felon who committed some horrific murders and is all like the whole nation is talking about this guy and he is on death row. And so Ella has been really shunned by her peers, by everyone because of what her brother has done. And so that's kind of heartbreaking all on its own. And her brother um like yeah, her and her brother were very close. So not only is she dealing with the fact that her brother committed these horrific crimes, she also has to deal with the fact that like the person she was closest to is now gone. And so she has recently moved back to the town that she had lived in when she was a little kid, and she reconnects with Max, who she was friends with when she was little. And so her and Max kind of start to form a friendship, but there's so much going on in her life that it is really hard for her to know, like, basically what to do. And there's still this looming like threat of her brother. Her brother's trying to get out of prison. Her mom believes that he is innocent. And so it's just, there's just so much stuff happening in this story. It is so good. It is dark. I absolutely loved it. It will be on my top um read of the year. Loved it so much. I don't want to give anything else away. It's just so good. So I know the cover is all bright and sunshiny, but oh, this was a hard book to read at times. Very, 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 very emotional. You just imagine though, like that's something that doesn't really get ever talked about, like in the news and stuff, when you hear about these people who create like these horrific crimes, like the people who loved them. Like that's just got to be really, really hard to wrap your mind around
Mm-hmm.
and deal with. And then, yeah, and she's
Yep.
like a teenager, and then she's bullied because of who her brother is.
Yeah, can't be easy.
And if you've read the book, F you, Dr. Pepper. If you haven't, go read it and then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. So the next book that I have, I guess is a retelling too. I don't know why they're both retellings, but so this is the Tarzan retelling. This is The Wild Man by Alex.
Oh, I knew this would be on here.
Yeah, I loved this book. So this is a dark captive situation. And like, you know, he's a wild man. So like I said, Tarzan retelling. This is about Everly and our wild man. So Everly decides, so she's a journalist, and there's been all of these rumors about a wild man who grew up out in the forest where she lives, and he, you know, apparently was abandoned as a baby and grew up there and is just completely wild. So she gets a bright idea that she's gonna go look for this guy, and look for him. She does. So she's been raised by her dad and her brothers. Her mom died when she was very little, and so she knows about camping. She knows hiking. Like she knows what she's doing supposedly as she goes out into the woods, and so she does that. And she runs into the wild man. And wild man decides, well, I want her. I'm going to keep her. And he really is wild. Like all he's known is what he's seen the animals do. So he takes her and he keeps her. And the first few times they're together are not consensual. And it's pretty rough, but things change and she softens a little bit towards him. But it is wild. It is good. It is dark. I loved it. It was great. So, you know, wild man. Can't help it. We already know I need therapy, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
But my thing is, even though these are dark and crazy, my brain knows this is all fiction. And I think that's why I'm able to go into some of the darker things, because I really, it's all fiction. It's not real.
Whatever you need to tell yourself so you can sleep at night.
Very funny.
All right. My next book is called Saving Rain, and this is by Kelsey Kingsley. This is a dark romantic suspense, and it is extremely heartbreaking. It's probably a little more on the lighter side of dark, but definitely deals with a lot of dark themes. So, like any dark romance, you should check triggers. So, we have Soldier. When he is a newborn baby, his mom looks at him as a teen mom and says, "You're going to be the one that saves me." That is a lot of pressure to put on a baby and a little kid. And Soldier's mom is a drug addict. And so his grandparents take him in, and he is given a very loving home. He doesn't understand why he doesn't have a mom like his friends do, but he has a very loving home that he grows up in until he's about 13, when his grandparents are now both passed away, and he has to go live with his mom. And his mom is still struggling and is still a drug addict and still making really bad choices. And this puts Soldier in a position of where he now has to make bad choices for their survival. Like, I'm talking like things to keep the electricity on, to keep food on the table, that sort of thing. And these consequences have actions. So he ends up suffering pretty severe consequences from that. And we fast forward about 10 years later, and he's trying to start his life over. And he meets Rain, who is a single mom who is in a pretty abusive situation with her son's dad. And he kind of tries to step in and help. And it's just, honestly, the book should have been called Saving Soldier. It is extremely emotional, very heartbreaking. And he just is trying to put his life back together. And oh, I just loved it so much. So good.
Okay. Well,
I made it sound super sappy and not like a dark romance at all.
Little bit. That's okay. The next book I have is probably one of within the top 10 darkest books I've ever read. So we'll just talk about that one instead. It's dark. It's really dark. So this is called Deviant. It's by Ellie Sanders. This book is Secret Society dark, but it makes Chantal Tessier's Lord series look like a small town romance. Okay, like it is dark. So this is about Liliana or Anna and Magnus. Magnus? Yep, the G is before the end. Magnus. So Liliana is a reporter, and she's investigating this group of the secret society known as the Brethren. The Brethren rule our world. This takes place in the UK, but basically these guys, they're like the underground people pulling all the strings for the rest of us who are just puppets out there, right? So they rule everything. She has discovered them. She's going to write an expose on them when the Brethren find out, and they go after her. And she knows by doing this that she's putting her life on the line. So she has to go on the run, but the Brethren are everywhere. And that is where they catch her. And she knows that her life is she's going to be killed, and she's going to be killed in a very brutal way for trying to expose them. And that is where Magnus steps in, and he says, yes, we will eventually kill her, but for now I'm going to keep her as my pet. And she is going to be my captive, and she is going to be my sex slave, and she's going to do whatever I say. And so there it goes from there. So a lot of Stockholm syndrome in this one. Just saying, a lot of brutal murder scenes in this one. Still loved it. Still great. But it is very, very, very dark.
Okay.
So, okay.
My last one is very dark and very controversial.
Okay.
So I want to just preface that I absolutely love this book. I know you absolutely love this book. But if you are seeking a dark romance with a traditional romance ending, this is not the book for you. If you are craving something different from what you normally read in the dark romance genre, this is a book you should try. Okay? I think that's a good way to intro this book.
Yeah.
So I am talking about Penpal by J.T. Geisinger. Again, I loved it. So we have Kayla, and Kayla starts getting these mysterious letters from someone, Dante, and she thinks that she's super confused about the letters. There's lots of spooky things that are happening, but she believes that she now has herself a prison pen pal that she is writing to, and she doesn't she doesn't really tell anybody what's going on, but like things are like weird things are happening. It's very spooky. Like, don't read it at night unless you want to be terrified. So this could be a great Halloween read too. But again, it does not have a traditional ending, but oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. And I actually appreciated the fact that it was a little bit different. Like for me, that's what made this like a 5-star favorite read. So I just want to show you the edge of my book. I'll wait forever if I have to. Oh, I just love this book so much. And really, I've probably said too much already. Go in blind. You have a little bit
We
of
both did.
information, but only if you're okay with this type. Because I know she caught a lot of flack for it, which I think is ridiculous. But
it's
people
still,
have
even
strong
though
feelings.
it's not a traditional HEA, it's still an HEA. They're still together in the end. So, because if somebody were to come to me and say it's not a traditional HEA, then I probably would be like, no, I don't want to read it. Because I would think that it meant that there was nothing that the couple wouldn't
No,
be.
she says it has one. It's
Yes,
just not,
it's just
it is not a traditional romance, and it does not have a traditional
Yes.
HEA.
Yeah. So I think that's important, but it is
still a romance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was one of those where
controversial. I don't understand why people need to make things into controversies.
I know.
You like it or you don't like it. Move on.
Exactly. But this was another one of those books where I was camping and had to drive into town to get cell service to call Mandy to tell her to read it. Yeah.
It was really good. I'm glad you told me to read it.
Yeah.
To which then I read Perfect Strangers and told you to read it.
I read that one.
Yeah, like 3 years later.
Yeah, well. I still read it.
I love though, and maybe it's because like I guess if I like didn't read a lot and just picked up a book, maybe I would be disappointed that it was so different. But we both read a lot, and I loved that it was different. Like the thing that people were complaining about was what made it so wonderful for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just loved the whole thing. So go in blind and read it if you want to try it. Yeah. But be nice to JT Geisinger.
Yes. Yeah.
So, we try to be drama free here. So if we don't like something, we'll tell you, but we don't feel like we have to, grab the pitchforks and run after people.
No. All right. So that's it. That's our dark romance. Don't forget to check those triggers though.
Yes. And we have several dark romance videos out. So you always go check those other ones if you're looking for some more recs. And what are some books that we should have on our radar to be reading? Put those in the comments. And then make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
And we will have this in the dark playlist. So that's where you can find them all. There is a dark romance playlist. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.